"Make way for the Red Fang of the North."
The voice struck the interior like thunder as the door slammed open. The normally soft jingling of the welcome bell instead violently chimed and ceased as it fell from its perch above the entrance. Heavy padded footfalls followed as the Wolfkin and his entourage entered, the biggest of which had to crouch to get past the doorframe. Those inside could only stare as the wolves entered, their paths set as they headed directly for the countertop at the back of the tavern, and the human staring directly at them. The largest wolf, looming so tall it was as if it could outgrow the building at any moment with just a push of effort, walked ahead of the pack and loomed down at its prey. The human simply looked back up, unshaken by the massive beast's crimson eyes that glared back at him. The feeling of a lit powder keg began to fill the building, the remaining patrons taking notice of what could quickly become a brawl. A nearby Death Knight began pushing back in his seat to reach his sword. A large orc chief dropped his fork and reached for his great axe. A pair of half-dragon twins dug their claws into the table and began to untuck their wings from behind their backs. The tension in the building was increasing at a rapid pace as the smallest wolfkind slammed its claws on the countertop, growling at the human.
"Human, you dare not bow in the presence of the great wolf? Have you no brain behind your eyes? Or perhaps you simply need a bit of persuasion?"
He flashed his teeth, a visual threat, but the human still maintained eye contact with the great wolf, unwilling to give the runt any of his time. The aggressive wolf's fur began to stick upright, a growl escaping his throat.
You ignore me? I will!"
His claws reached out. The sounds of weapons being picked up or unsheathed responded, only for a thunderous growl to freeze him in place. Instantly, he shrunk back into the entourage, tail between his legs, and mumbling soft, fearful apologies to his pack leader. It was only now that the human spoke, a sigh escaping him as he cocked his head in confusion. "He must be new. Never known your pack to lash out like that." His voice showed genuine curiosity and confusion as he looked out over the tight-wound crowd, ready to spring into action. Those devoid of weapons had grabbed bottles, chairs, even sharpened cutlery. Instantly his mood shifted, his eyes narrowing as he raised his voice. "Hey! I told all of you, hands off your weapons while you're in the tavern. This is not how we treat returning family." The patrons, cowed into submission, released their weapons and tried to loosen up as they returned to what they had been doing. The half-dragons bowed their heads, the Death Knight echoed a sigh, and the Orc Chief simply shrugged and went back to his meal. The human, for his part, returned his eyes to the looming wolfkin. A smile creeped across his face as he clapped his hands together with excitement. "It's so good to see you again, Lady Rosa. Look how much you've grown. Am I going to get my honorary pack hug now? Or are you too grown up for that?" He spread his arms wide, gesturing for the massive wolfkin to embrace him. Instead, she reached down and used her massive arms to lift him upward, gently hugging him against her fur-lined body. Her face gently nuzzling against his torso and face as her tail swished back and forth, strong enough to actually create a strong gust of air that would have knocked lighter patrons off their feet. The tension quickly drained from the building as a sense of familial connection returned, the enormous wolf growling happily as she continued to nuzzle the human. He raised his voice to speak over her growls as she patted her enormous head. "I'm happy to see you too, Lady Rosa. Please take a seat at your usual spot and I'll get you all whatever you want. Drinks are on the house tonight to celebrate Rosa's return." The entire tavern erupted in celebration, the sounds of draconic roars mixing with orcish cheers, and topped off by dwarven huzzas. One would wonder how such a meeting of all races could happen, and how they could all be at peace with each other in such a small building. One's wondering would cease if they looked over a collection of photos on the wall closest to the countertop. There, a line of photos tells the story of a man who opened a tavern that would welcome all races. As the photos continue, the man grows older and more successful, until the final photo reveals him handing a scroll to a younger man and a female wolfkind. This scroll, the deed of ownership, sits behind that photo as a new story begins. The first photo is that of a young boy and a small wolfkind female holding hands together. The next is of that same boy, now an adult, opening the tavern alongside the same wolfkind, and a new scroll that reads, "Sibling Tavern Duo, Xander and Rosa Ark reopen Family Tavern in Capital City."